So like laugh every time you hear it.
There you go. Hey, and Sarah.
All right, let's start over.
Yeah. Sarah, as the creative force behind this, any thoughts on this spot? Any reactions to the results, to what Bill and Jillian and Kristen and I have been talking about?
No, I was concerned, given some of the feedback on how it was going to perform since it was digital retailing. So good to hear it was positive, and great feedback on adding in something about viewing our current specials or something like that. Because even though, to your point, it's typically used as a branding spot,
Yeah.
we typically have, go to market in place within 24 hours of, the first day of the month. So that's not an issue in terms of having current offers live.
Yeah, Sarah, we have this conversation with folks all the time, and they go, no, this is the brand spot. That's the direct response or the call to action or the event spot, right? We're going to run a whatever Easter savings daylight madness special. And what we remind them is that all ads are brand ads and all ads are direct response ads. It's just sometimes the brand is, I don't care about my brand. And sometimes the direct response, the call to action is, don't do anything now. You can wait. I'm going to give you a sale message later. And so finding ways to smartly integrate the two of those, you'll notice that the direct to consumer brands that have kind of sprung up over the last couple of years, everybody from Warby Parker to Bombas to Peloton, they all do a good job of integrating 20% off your first offer, 20% off right now, 15% for referrals. They're constantly giving you a reason to engage with the brand. That's not an accident, right? Even those that have been built clearly on brand stories. One more ad that we tested on your behalf. Last one here, and want to be respectful of your time. I think, we're making good time today.
I was going to say, Bill, I think we have
two more,
but this was one we tested specifically because we wanted to really get in at the execution of the anniversary messaging. So
which is not this isn't a Dimmitt spot, obviously. No,
correct. This is a Faulkner spot. That's right.
It's out of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Okay, I'm familiar with them.
If there's one thing that tells the story of who we are and what we are, it's people. The people we work with, the people we serve, the people whose stories make up our 90-year history. Technology has changed how, when, and where we buy vehicles. But as we celebrate our 90th year, our commitment to you remains the same. Whether you're buying, selling, leasing, or just shopping, Faulkner has a solution that makes it easy, all backed by people that make a difference. Faulkner, to be sure.
So we picked this one on purpose because we know as you guys are celebrating your 100th anniversary and you're thinking about how do you frame that? We had seen this ad. I think, Jillian, we had tested this in another market, if memory serves me correctly. And this does a really good job of tying in the things that people care about and making sure that this ad remains consumer centric, right? And you guys have been through this process before. Consumer centric is our way of saying the more time you spend talking about yourself, the less interested people are. And so this ad is focused in on consumers, focused in on the experience consumers have, and focused in on your people. And you saw as we were breaking out the quant data that people are the differentiator. Consumers are looking for a good experience. They think of your people as the way they're going to get that experience. And so showcasing whether they're real people or stand-ins, that human experience through there. This is a really good way to do it. Jillian, the follow-on scores for this one weren't as good as your scores. So 4.03, right? The overall reaction is good. That net brand gain of 61, though, for most auto dealers, that's a home run. For most auto dealers, that's hitting it out of the park. You'll see it doesn't do as well as either of your executions do. And again, that's because this ad is still too internally focused. It's still too focused on them, on themselves, and doesn't give me a reason to engage with that brand. And so minor tweaks, right, that we would make here.
Can we pause here real quick as we're talking about people? And one of the things that stands out in their spot versus ours is I feel that they did a great job representing all ethnicities.
Yeah.
We came off a bit Caucasian.
Yeah.
Which is our demo, but is that a detriment?
It is absolutely, in broad terms, the answer is yes, it's a detriment. You didn't get punished for it in your ads here, largely because you moved through them relatively quickly, but over a wide sample of ads, over a wide sample of consumers, over time, it will burn you. So you're going to want to make
saying,
sure.
I don't see me.
Yep. That's it.
That's exactly right. You're going to want to make sure it's not just that I don't see me, it's that doesn't look like the world I live in. Right. And that's the way to think about it, that consumers go to the grocery store, they go to work, they're interacting in the community, and your ads should reflect the community. It should feel like the world that I live in. And that would mean making sure you've got a wide variety of people, ages and ethnicities worked into those spots over time. Look, Sarah, I know what I'm describing here is kind of the Benetton ad. That's not what we're suggesting. What we're saying is your advantage is you're running a campaign of ads. Make sure that over the course of that campaign, we're being smart about working through and highlighting people of different ages and different ethnicities in different ways throughout those spots.
What we loved about this, and this is a little bit of a roadmap again, is length of time in business, family owned, those are always at the bottom. This spot takes that and absolutely highlights the consumer benefit, right?
Yep. And then
You
they
just
got
feel
that
like-
message across in the bottom left, the
Yeah,
whole spot.
Yeah, Bill and Jillian talk a lot about, and Kristen, about like kind of this bullet point nature of just checking boxes, like we've got this, we've got that, right? You see, I mean, just consistent positive reaction. What's happening at the bigger kind of moment in the middle? Right there.
Technology
They go
has
online.
changed.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So Dimmitt Direct.
So they're probably.
Also, I
hitting it
think
over
if we,
the
I believe once we start, if we listen to the audio here and hear that big uptick,
People whose stories make up our 90-year history.
that's actually the first time the 90-year history is referenced as well. We have that positive bump, that code goes up.
And look, that's pretty typical from a structural standpoint. So not leading with the 90th, and the temptation's always, it's 100 years. We've been around for 100 years. We're celebrating our 100th birthday. Instead, they do a good job of establishing consumer value and then using the 90th as a proof point. Right. So look, times have changed and we know it's more important than ever to find a car that meets your family's needs at a price that you can afford. Look, we've been doing it for 100 years. We're going to do it for 100 more because our people make the difference. Right. That's focus on them, then tell them what you want to tell them. And then you got to give them a proof point. Right. And in this case, our people make the difference. That's the line that they're using here in Faulkner, or the concept they're using here in Faulkner, and meets consumer expectations now that, look, I know the car's going to be more expensive. I know the financing is not going to be what I want. I know I'm probably not going to get the color car I want, but could you at least be nice to me? Could you at least be nice to me? And delivering that message, we're going to be nice to you. We're going to help you move your way through this process, and we're going to deliver you extraordinary service. That's going to get a strong response from those consumers. Jillian and the team have made a note. It's not entirely clear what they're selling throughout the course of this ad. This is another example where the lack of a CTA is hurting them because they're not asking anybody to do anything. They haven't said we have extraordinary pricing or great specials. They haven't said, look at all the great selection we have. There's nothing in there. There's not even a service offer. Come in for a $19.99 oil change or come in for whatever in honor of our 90th birthday. They're not even using that moment for a throwaway. And so consumers weren't entirely sure who is this and what do they do for a living and why am I seeing the ad? And we saw some degradation of their overall scores there. Not a lot, but some.
Hey, Sarah, it's always fun to watch somebody else's work. What are your thoughts here?
Again, great feedback. I'm taking notes. But just the subtle imagery of the centennial, I think, is great. And then not bringing that verbally into the mix until later in the spot is also really good feedback as well.
I do want to ask a question on something that you said. It struck me. I wrote it down. It says, this doesn't feel like the world that I live in. And we had some dialogue earlier on about the emergence of a K economy. It's happening. It's here. It's been happening. But we are largely servicing two different worlds. We've got upper middle America, and then we have elite money
Yeah.
Right.
Is it wise to pull that feeling together, or is it wise to keep them siloed?
No, I think you can pull this together, right? So I often joke about the ads that we get here on the television in my house. Everybody sees themselves as about 10 years younger than you really are,
Amen.
right?
Agreed.
Right. And so when they're aiming ads at people who are close to their, close to aging out of the demos, and I see 30-year-olds on TV, I'm like, oh, that ad's meant for me. It's not. It's not. That's not me. That's not who they're aiming at. And so the opportunity you have, and you know this, right? All of the luxury brands you represent have done a really good job of creating accessible entry points for consumers, right? And then aspirational products on the other end of the line. Your advantage is you can sell an A4 to a young professional who's just starting out their career, and you can sell what's the S8 SUV on the other end of the spectrum, right? And so using that framing there to allow upper middle income families to see the accessible luxury, to see access to it, but then highlighting some of the really great vehicles you have and kind of targeting those at those families who can afford to pay full sticker price for an Escalade. That's useful because both of those are going to the lower end is going to chase the upper end. The upper end's not really going to care. They're showing up for vehicles that the average household can't afford.
And then there's just the aspirational piece, right? I can't afford the man, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
totally.
explore this one day.
Yeah, exactly.
I bought from Dimmitt. I'm in the family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's right.
But
That's
I saw
exactly.
people that looked like me with the skin color or the gender. Yeah.
Yep.
Good dialogue. Thank you.
Last ad. This is from Toyota. Big one.
And can I ask before we hit play, Sarah? I was wondering, why did we test this one again?
I think we were trying to provide
expensive.
one from each of our major volume brands.
Yep,
Yeah.
perfect.
It doesn't get any bigger than this. Don't miss the big one sales event going on now at Village Toyota. Drive the new 2022 Corolla LE with payments as low as $199 per month. Explore our entire lineup of gas-saving, fuel-efficient hybrids, like the 2022 Toyota RAV4. With an estimated 41 miles per gallon, the RAV4 hybrid is designed to go the extra mile. 1.9% APR financing is available for a limited time. Get pre-approved in minutes. Customize your payments and value your trade online at villagetoyota.com.
So again, you see that final big thumbs up from consumers at the end of the ad. They really liked it. There are some elements. And so, yeah, let's do the score. 4.21 net brand gain, 67%, right? You're right back up into that range, 73% more likely, only 6% less likely. There are a couple
Like
of
that banner, that hybrid banner.
Yeah. Right. You're doing a really good job in this spot. The 199, the 1.9. And look, it's not just the specifics. It's not just that you got a great payment here, you got really compelling APR available. It's the signal you're sending to consumers that helps them see how they could make this happen. This connects really well to them. And then Jillian, they really liked the focus on the fuel efficiency, right? That ties back to what we keep hearing from consumers who are struggling with rising costs.
Yep, absolutely. And we actually, I know we have, we're short on time, so I want to be respectful of our time. We actually do have a video from a respondent from the focus group. If we'd like to watch it, we can run through. He also specifically references his interest in an eco-friendly vehicle. So I think that it'll be valuable to kind of hear what he said. We asked deeper understanding questions. So this was a very broad question on purpose. We asked, thinking about buying a car right now, what messages are most compelling to you to hear about in advertising? So we'll go ahead and press play.
So the things that I need to know about a dealership if I'm going to use them. There's a couple of basic things. One is that more than maybe other businesses, reputation definitely is important. So I would look to find a place that other people I knew would recommend. so reputation being paramount. That being said, obviously the type of cars that they have is also important. My next car will be an eco car for sure. So I'm interested in dealerships that have a variety of hybrids and electric cars that are available. That would be important. And I would want it to not be a new thing for them, so that somebody there has some expertise on talking about the cars. And I guess the other thing that's important is just a lot of auto dealerships feel as if they're trying to get you to sign on the dotted line as quickly as possible. And I think that doesn't work for me, and I'm sure it doesn't work for a lot of people. I would like a more relaxed environment where you can go in, talk to people, no kind of pressure, you can look at a car on your own, and then if you want to engage somebody, you can do that. Those are the things that would be most important to me.
He strikes me as a really kind human being.
It
does.
Kind of scary to see your viewer and your consumer sometimes in the natural environment.
Seems like a nice person.
Yeah, but a thoughtful guy, right?
Very much so.
And what's funny is, right, you think people don't get you or don't really, no, he gets you totally.
I like the part where he's looking into hybrid one and basically saying, I want an expert in that space.
Right.
Somebody help.
Because
me.
it's new, it's like, I mean, that's huge, because it is all new for us, and it's like, help me understand it so I can buy it.
Goes back to Bill and Jillian's point of being a helper brand. All of that like scary, anxious stuff we talked about at the beginning, right? There is blood pressure is high with all that news. I mean, this is how make it easier for us. Help us.
Used to Bill Day, be nice to me.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. So he is saying exactly, out loud, what the data is telling us at scale.
Maybe chocolate Tocino's pizza.
All right.
I love it.
I'm a Hudson's guy.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Great creative.
see ya.
It
Yeah.
was fun seeing the
Thank
test.
you.
Yeah.
He's
Can I say, so when that spot first came up for the Village Toyota, you go back, I saw right away the likes. And at least for me, and I know I talked to other, because I'm in the market for a car eventually, here pretty soon this year. But I think showing the lot and showing inventory, I'm guessing it'd be interesting to see the feedback.
Well, that's old, creative.
But still, I guess
That's
for
not
me,
real.
I'm like, I don't want to go to a dealership who's like, all our cars are online, here's 10 cars you can look at today. Seeing a full lot for me, and I think the consumers are like, they got cars.
Does a full lot exist?
No. We, as of this morning, we had 6 Toyotas on the ground.
Oh my God. Wow. Did you hear that, Bill and Jillian?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise us. So look, the shots of full lots are appealing to consumers. I think we want to make sure that they're accurate, right? So I would not use those shots now because, well, it happens so often. We've got a term for it here at MAGID. It's called anticipation. Right? You get me excited. Oh my gosh, they've got cars. And I show up on your lot and it's empty and they go, oh, they don't have cars. Right? Want, right? So we want to manage expectations. Your Audi shot does that really well. The Faulkner shot we use does that really well. Shows beautiful cars, shows a reasonable number of them, but doesn't have that, the classic drone shot of how big your selection is. If and when you get back to the point that you have a 90-day selection on hand, that's awesome. And you're going to want to take advantage of that, but that's a long way off. We did ask consumers an open-ended question, Jillian, around what they thought about anniversary messaging in general. And you'll see that they understand what it means, right? That you have to have built a long relationship.
Yep. And again, tying back to the idea of how do we tether some of these lower at face value, those lower attributes in advertising? How do you tie it back to something that the consumer cares about and is engaged with? And this is pretty much your roadmap for how to do just that. As you see a lot of these quotes, consumers are talking about how the 100 years is something to be proud of. I feel more comfortable shopping with a longstanding business. But they also immediately after it, basically in the same breath, tie it back to what really matters to them. You can't be in business that long and not have great customer service. It means something because you've built relationships with customers and you have repeat business. So, thinking about that anniversary messaging, it's really kind of a subtle, almost unconscious relationship between what that relates to in terms of consumer value. It's about customer service. It's about that expertise that you can offer them. And it's about building relationships over the course of that 100 years.
So the important thing from these comments, from these qual, is that consumers get it. They can put those pieces back together on their own, but left to their own devices, right? They're not paying attention to that. So you can't just throw it at them. You can't just throw an anniversary, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, 100 years or 50 years, but instead you're going to want to start stacking and connecting them together. When you stack and connect them, they'll circle around and go, yep, that all makes sense to me. Those all fit there nicely, but just left on their own in the context of an ad. Because remember, an ad is 30 seconds out of my life. You're interrupting the thing I want to do. I tuned in to watch basketball tonight. I tuned in to watch the news, or I tuned in to watch my favorite comedy or drama program. And you're interrupting me with a 30-second conversation about you. That's great. Just make it work for me, right? Don't make me work too hard. Don't make me try to figure out what the benefit of that could possibly be to me. And if you do, you'll see that they're going to come along for the ride with you pretty quickly.
And that bottom quote said it all, right? It means something, but that's not the reason to buy a car there, right? If I got the same car cheaper somewhere else, I'm going there. Give me a reason.
I like the puzzle analogy. It's an important piece to the puzzle, but it's not the biggest piece of the puzzle.
Not the biggest. That's exactly right. It's not the biggest piece, right? And really, as you said, right, the people who sign your checks, I would remind them that the key here is to use it as a proof point for the things that got us here. Right. So I'll pick on your colleagues. We've been picking on lots of folks in other places. We often do this with newsrooms or TV stations around the country, and they go, look at all the awards we won. And I'm like, yeah, you can't start with the award. You got to start with the work. Why did you win an award? What was the work you did that delivered that award to you? Start with the work, and then use the award as the proof point, right? So start with the work. We've been committed to delivering extraordinary customer service, making sure everybody who walks on our lot is treated with respect and moves through the process in a way that makes sense to them. We deliver really great cars at the best possible prices, and we'll deliver blah, 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 right? We've been doing it for 100 years. We're going to do it for 100 more. We've been doing it for 5 years. We're going to do it for 5 more. It's the proof at the end that connects back to the things you guys do so well that have let you stay in business. Consumers buy that. They'll come along for that ride with you. But remember, you got to keep the customer at the front and you at the back of those stories.
Preach, brother.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we talked about, there was a car dealer who had an anniversary, and there was this whole notion of, you've been there for us, now it's our turn to be there for you. Like there's a way of really spinning it into a consumer benefit, right?
Yeah.
That I love.
While we're on the topic of I guess live media, as far as OOH is concerned, is it okay and appropriate to say simply thank you?
Thank you for what? Just thank you? Just a billboard that says thank you?
We're trying to figure out how to communicate the centennial on a billboard.
Yeah.
I think
it's real easy to just put 100 years in our brands, but that doesn't really mean anything.
My first instinct would be to say that with the consumer, you don't want them to think too hard in order to engage with your content. You want to give them a very clear understanding of what you want them to do and how you want them to engage with it and what action you want them to take. So I guess my question with thank you, what is the message you want them to take away from that? And how do you want them to interact with your brand following that interaction?
Yeah, spot on, right? So here's what we know about out-of-home advertising broadly. Out-of-home advertising works best when it's directional in nature. Hot fries next exit is one of the most efficient and effective dollars you can spend in advertising. It is at the highest layer of efficiency and effectiveness. It tells me what I need in a need state that I can respond to and gives me value right there. There are lots of ways to use directional advertising. If you can find a traffic corridor, I don't think they have those in Florida. You guys don't have traffic in Florida, do you? You're laughing, Kristen, right? We spend a lot of time, my fiance and I spend a lot of time in Southern Florida. We spend a lot of time stuck in traffic down there. And messaging that says, if you lived here, you'd be home by now, right? Messaging that says, get off here and work out at our gym. And then when your workout's over, the traffic will be gone, right? That kind of directional messaging that talks to you where you are can be really effective. So I think if I were you, I would think about are there out-of-home physical locations that you can purchase that have a meaning to the brand, right? We're not talking about randomly distributed or high traffic points, but are there places, right? You're 200 yards away from where history began. You're at the intersection of blah, 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 as a way of tying in the geography to the out of home. And to Jillian's point, the question then becomes, what is it? Thank you's not enough in that space. If I were going to buy an out-of-home campaign to support something like a centennial, I would want it to be a celebration of Tampa and a celebration of your brand's connection to the market, right? That's what I'd want to do. I'd want to use it as a way of tying that in. I'm here in Philly, and Philly's obviously rich and full of history, right? You can't walk 3 blocks without stumbling over the place where Thomas Jefferson once tied his shoe, or where Washington tied up a horse, or there's a whole block that's like, this is a hotel that Benjamin Franklin ran that may or may not have been a house of ill repute. It's a whole block, 2 blocks from my house, right? If you tie into those moments that are of power and connection to your community, that's a really useful way of doing out of home. So old pictures.
Bill, Dave builds on your idea. You could say, because there's all of these neighborhoods, right? Thank you, Safety Harbor. Thank you, Clearwater.
That's
Thank you, Petersburg Beach, right? And that is there, because what that also communicates is people have left that town
Thank you for being a part of our
and
store.
gone to your store, which is not in their town, right? They're going like Dimmitt Automotive Group, or whatever it may be. You may have your badges beneath it. I like that idea.
Yeah. So that's better because again, we're triggering that response from consumers and pride in where they live. Mhm. Yeah, I will say, I mean, not that Tampa's not a lovely place and a great place. That those consumers, you're going to want to be smart and strategic about how you do what Bill just described, right? All of those different pieces and thoughtful about putting those pieces together. We've been to some markets that have an irrational level of civic pride. In Kansas City, if you show them a picture of their skyline, which I'm just going to go just in the circle of trust here, is in it. I don't remember what it looks like. And I've been to Kansas City probably 200 times. I don't know what it looks like. People in Kansas City are like, yeah, and this is before the Super Bowl. This is before they had the Chiefs winning. They're just really excited to be from Kansas City in a way that's weird. We picked that civic pride up in a couple of different places where we know, there's some stuff you can show. Bill, I don't think we've ever picked up that kind of, I don't know that there's the same kind of iconic imagery power in Tampa, but I do. We could get.
But this is a town with bridges, and we've done research in a lot of places with bridges, and it's a force field, right? Tampa is different than St. Pete. So the visual support of thank you, St. Pete versus thank you, Tampa needs to be distinct.
And Cooper was recognized also. So.
And Cooper, there you go.
Yeah,
that's real quick on the imagery and going with your thought. Is that some of that imagery, whatever it is, out of home or whatever, is that older, showing the history, or is that newer?
Look, I don't know Tampa well enough to guide you with that. What I would suggest is, right, you either
like Dimmitt's history, like showing old, Dimmitt's history, something older.
Either one of those could work, but what you'd want geographically evocative. In other words, not just an old picture of a Model T Ford. I know We're not talking Model T Fords, but not just an old picture of an old Cadillac, right? For example,
Old
and
Florida farm, yeah.
right? You'd want images that were evocative and positive, right? I think it goes without saying, positively evocative. We don't want pictures of hurricanes that have, devastated the area. That's not positively evocative. It's evocative. So you'd want to find those positively evocative images that made sense for the geography where you were buying those out-of-home executions, right? And look, that's probably worth buying pizza and donuts for a group of your staff or friends and family, putting a map up, putting pins in those map where the out-of-homes are and going, all right, guys, what stories would we want to tell in this geography here? I think I was telling you and teasing Carrie, I grew up in the Hampton Roads market. I could do that off the top of my head from Virginia Beach to Richmond. I could give you evocative images and evocative stories at every mile marker on every major road in that 90-mile area, because I lived there for 40 years, right?
And that's this discussion is a good segue to, us supporting you for the next year, right? These conversations like this is what we love talking about, right? And brainstorming with you. We don't necessarily have all the answers. We have a point of view and we spend a lot of time thinking about it, especially with the folks who do what you do. But this is, you and Sarah and whoever else want to get on calls and get on Zooms.
We thrive on dialogue, and that's how we
Yeah.
do our decisioning.
Yeah.
Because we're not the smartest folks in the room. So this felt like a team. This felt like the way that we try to run our meetings. So very grateful. Good stuff today.
No, good.
Well,
Really
thanks for making time. Thanks for letting Jillian and I join you from. Jillian, you're at
Colder
home.
weather.
Yeah, Jillian from the comfort of her home and her fireplace there in Brooklyn.
It is absolutely not working. I cannot not afford a working fireplace in Brooklyn, but yeah, from the East Coast.
Yeah. I wish we were there in Florida with you guys, but we're getting a little breath of spring. Jillian, what's it like in New York today?
I was gonna say I'm very excited for the first 60-degree weekend in New York of the year. So happy it's almost Friday. Excited to experience that because we've had a rough couple months.
I think there's a roof deck in my weekends. I think that's
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Day, if you venture to Patty's Pub, send me a shirt, will you?
So Patty's Pub might be 200 yards from my front door.
Cool.
Yeah. It's right down the road, and it's owned by the guys. I don't know if you
Buy him shirt.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, before we hang up, Sarah Edwards, the voice behind the name.
Yes.
Any final thoughts, insights?
I've got a short list. I'm going to look forward to reconnecting on some additional insights from the
Awesome.
team. But thank you guys so much for your time today.
Yeah. Well, as Bill Hague said, you have us for a year. Use us as you like. We're going to follow up. We'll get you a copy of this deck. We'll get you a copy of this recording. You have access to us. We're happy to represent this in any way you like. Cut down versions, different versions with different audiences. You have that. And then we'll also get you logons. We'll get both of you logons to the Advantage portal. That gives you our rolling update. So look, I hope nothing interesting happens over the course of the next year. I hope.
Well, you just raised another quarter point. It's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be-
mean, our
gonna get-
experience is we're going to have some interesting stuff happen, likely by the end of the week. And so as interesting things happen, you have access to us, not just the on-demand access. Of course, you have that, but you have access to that data. And Kristen actually leads that work, the rolling tracking studies that allow us to understand the impact of rising interest rates on family budgets and their likelihood to purchase auto, right? We know right now that automotive purchase intent is at the highest point we've seen it in the last 7 months. About 45% of respondents say, I'm thinking about buying a car in the next 6 to 12 months. It's as high as we've seen at any point. So, you'll have access to all of that. You'll have access to understand what that means and what happens, certainly as changes hit your industry. Supply comes back on, supply doesn't come back on, right? Heaven forbid that our friend Z decides to do something over in Taipei, and that impacts supply chain again on the back end of the year, right? All of that we'll be able to track and understand what's happening and what, if anything, you need to do to adjust your marketing. To be clear, a lot of times the answer is nothing. The answer is you don't have to do anything different. all of this stuff looks crazy. The good news is for your business, there's not much impact. You'll have access to that for an entire year. Happy to get that all over to you as well.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you too.
Thanks, team. Take care. Have a great
Thank
night.
you guys. Absolutely.
Catch you on
See you,
Slack,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Okay, sounds good.
Take care.